Is it too loud? Is it good?
No, it's pretty much perfect.
Good. Okay. Welcome back, everybody, to the podcast. The guest this week is Stefan Hansen.
What's up, y'all?
Why don't you give everybody a little bit about what you do, and then, we'll get started.
Well, as you can see, I'm on a podcast, so pretty much just hanging out and getting ready for riding season. So got a bike last year and enjoying living the two-wheel therapy life. So as we bikers call it, because I'm cool like that now. But
dude, you are cool. I can't believe you're actually on my podcast.
I can't believe we got you.
I'm honored. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
You've gone out riding a couple times this year already, right?
Yeah, a couple times. We rode to we went down Chicago Drive a little bit, and then right now we're planning on Cedar Springs and then Muskegon later this year for Rebel Road.
Oh.
So, and yeah, that one's a fun one because there's a bunch of bikers there, and they all show off their bikes with like whatever kind of decals they have or souped up stuff they got. So.
Are they nice bikers, or are they going to beat me up?
No, I mean the ones that aren't drunk are going to be nice, but I mean other than that, they're pretty nice though. But bikers have that stereotype where they're like, yeah, we're tough. Like, we eat nails for breakfast without any milk. So, like, but no, they are nice. They're like, I was chill last year, and I was a new biker, too. I showed off the Honda Shadow. People really liked it and had a good time. It was nice. I didn't drink at all, so I'm just not a drinker.
You better not if you're going to be on this Christian podcast.
Other than Arizona tea. That's about the only drink I'll drink. Green tea. They made a new Rocket Pop one.
Rocket Pop?
Yeah, like you remember the American flag one, like red topper, white in the middle, and blue at the bottom. The Rocket Pops. You remember those popsicles?
Oh yes, I do.
Yeah. they're making a flavor, and it's out at 7-Elevens right now for sale. And I'm like, I kind of want to try it.
Is it in Arizona?
Yeah, it's Arizona.
And it's a drink, liquid drink.
Yeah, it's a liquid drink. It's called Chill Pop. I've tried, those drinks have been really good lately. Like, I know we're going way off. This is the last thing I'll mention, but yeah, no, it's really good. Like, I've tried the prime drink of it. It's really good. There's like a Ghost, I think it's called Ghostly or something. It's like an energy drink. I tried that once when I was like opening my store like last year, and it was like, this is good. Like, I like the Rocket Pop stuff. It's got good flavoring to it.
And now they're making one that's red, white, and blue?
No, they've been red, white, and blue. It's just the flavor of it. So it's like all three flavors combined into one, and they're making them into drinks. So Arizona got on the bandwagon with it, and now they have like their own Chill Pop. So I'm like, ooh. And the closest 7-Eleven is Zealand, and I don't know how. It's like 20 minutes away from. But I'm not going to drive there for one can.
Yes, you are. You're going to do it, and you're going to like it.
I probably will.
Yeah. You can take I-96. It's a nice drive to Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
But you were talking earlier about how a YouTuber that you know, I forgot his name.
I
mean, it's really a trend, not a trend, but it's something that happens. But we'll start with him as to why.
Yeah, I forget his name, but I used to watch him on Twitch and YouTube.
Yeah.
And he would just basically be playing random games, whether it's horror or Fortnite, Call of Duty, whatever. And he was really good. I liked his content, and he brought a lot to the community, and people were starting to follow him more. He had like over 2,000 followers or something. But then what happened later on is that he put on his bio that he was a Christian, like VTuber, content creator, whatever.
Yeah. And
then he announced it on stream, and then he like lost a bunch of followers because of that. And
you know it was because of that?
Yeah, I mean, what other explanation would there be? Because I was a like regular follower, and I still check up, but he doesn't upload as much anymore because of all the following he lost just from announcing that he was Christian.
Yeah, and so why do you think that happened?
I think it's just the fact that, if I'm honest with you, I think people just hate Christianity in its own way. I really do. In today's world, I'm being honest.
No, I know.
But yeah, like it's one of those things where people just look at you based on your, like, not only just your physical look, but they also will judge you on your faith too.
Yeah.
Like, if I guarantee you, if he were to say like he's Buddhist or he's bi or something like that, like people would be fine with that. But the minute you mention Christianity on anything, whether it's a TV show, whether it's, you know, a video game, whatever, it's over pretty much.
I've noticed that too. Atheists don't hate other religions. They just hate Christianity.
Well, then too, you know, the guy that made Fairly Odd Parents, Butch Hartman.
Yeah.
He came out with, after, I don't know if he got fired from Nickelodeon or if he just left, but either way, he was obviously the creator of Fairly Odd Parents, and he went his own route. So he actually has a show that it's Christian based. It's like a kid's show, and it's like Lionel and something, and it's like The Garden is what the show's called. The Garden and the Adventures of Lionel and whoever. And it's all like Christian based with scripture and whatever. And it actually looks good. It's in the same style as Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah.
But I go on his TikTok and YouTube that he has it on. He does not have a lot of following on it. Like, and I'm like, this is the dude that made Fairly Odd Parents and made people's childhood before Fairly Odd Parents became crap.
If you were allowed to watch that show when I was growing up, I had to sneak it because my parents wouldn't let me watch it because there was magic.
Yeah, my dad was, when he was very strict with us, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was banned from the house because there was a skeleton.
Yeah, well, that was in my family too.
That show was good too. But yeah, I felt bad because I'm like, I follow Butch Hartman and he's a good dude. He's a great artist.
Yeah.
So when
does he do more art than just cartoons?
Yeah, he does more art and stuff like that too. Like he'll do fan requests of like, hey, draw like Peter Griffin in the style of Fairly Odd Parents or Danny Phantom, and like he'll do his own thing, and it's really good. Like I've seen him; he does like step by step on how to do it too, if you want to draw it, kind of thing, and it's really cool. And then the fact that again now he's going to do his own thing, like creating another show, and people like it. It's not like people don't like it.
Yeah, right.
But it's not as a big following compared to like Fairly Odd Parents.
So you think that he too lost a lot of following because of his Christian faith?
Yeah, because I've seen it the before and after. Because before, when he was just doing Fairly Odd Parents, Danny Phantom, Tough Puppy, all the shows that he worked on Nickelodeon, like the different art styles are talking about, like, here's something you didn't know about Tough Puppy. He would just right then and there just be like all over it. Like there'd be millions of likes, views, whatever. And then you go to where he announced the video that he announced that he was starting his own new studio of a Christian-based cartoon for kids.
Yeah.
Nothing. Like hardly anything. And then after that announcement, people just stopped watching. And there's not as many views. There's not as much traction. And then even on the actual channel of like for the cartoon, there's not enough action. Like there's nothing. And so it's like, yeah, in my aspect of things though, if that were me, I'd still be proud of what I created. Like proud of my past, like that, where he created like childhood memories, but then also focusing on the future. It's like, yeah, it doesn't have a lot of likes, but this is something I made, I'm proud of.
Yeah.
Regardless of people think like, oh, because it's Christian, like now this is just dumb. Versus like, oh, Fairly Odd Parents? Yeah, I'm into that. So, but yeah, it's ever since he announced that he was going towards more of the Christian route of things, now he doesn't have a following as much, and it's not as strong, and he's losing people. He's gaining, but he's losing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's where the aspect of how I think in today's world that Christianity is impactful, and it may not necessarily be all negative, but it's also in a positive way too. It's just the world, I think, they think Christianity is just like the worst thing on the planet.
But why do you think that they think Christianity, out of all religions, is the one that they hate?
That's the thing, is because some people with other beliefs that they have is Christianity's wrong. Obviously, my faith is the superior, truthful version compared to Christianity. Jesus was some guy walking around in the desert and created wine and water. Yeah, right. That's what they think. But then it comes to like, you like for, what is it? The Arabics believe in like Muhammad or something.
Well, Technically it'd be Muslim.
Muslim.
Muslim is the majority of them are Arab, but not all Arabs are Muslim.
Okay, I just wasn't sure on the whole terminology thing, so I apologize.
But yes, they believe in Muhammad.
Yeah, so it's like I think they just said like, yeah, Jesus existed, but he wasn't the guy that everybody thinks he was. And everybody, again, they're entitled to their own beliefs, but it's also at the same time like,
they're also wrong.
yeah, they are. But it's in that aspect of like, okay, we're not sitting there crapping on your faith. Like, we're not sitting there making fun of your stuff, because if you remember South Park,
yes,
way back in the day, they released like a cartoon image of Muhammad of what their version was or something, and they got death threats.
Yeah, I know.
You don't see Christians sitting there when they make fun of Jesus on any show, whether it's Family Guy or South Park or American Dad. We don't sit there and have death threats out to them. It's still wrong for them to make fun of Jesus and everything Christian related. But again, you don't see us acting out on it like that.
I find it funny too that Muslims and a lot of other religions really don't like homosexuals.
Yeah.
And in Christianity, it is also a sin to be a homosexual, but I wouldn't say we go as far as to hate them like that. And a lot of people voted this woman in who was Muslim. And I don't, in America, I don't know if she was a senator, Congress, or who it was, but as soon as she got into office, she banned the pride flag.
Yeah.
And it's like, why you still hate Christians, even though she did that?
Right.
She's going against all of your ideologies and beliefs, and you're not going to say anything about Muslims. You're still going to hate Christianity.
Right.
It makes no sense.
No, it doesn't at all. And I don't know why to be honest with you, I don't know why that is not looked at more, like with the fact that she's still hating Christianity, because they're making a bigger deal about the pride flag and stuff like that versus another issue that's ongoing. It's like how the government right now is like, we're sending billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight this war and whatever, but it's we're focusing on banning TikTok right now. Like, yeah, that's a big problem in America. Absolutely. Homeless veterans, yeah, screw them apparently.
Yeah.
Like, that's basically the premise is like, why are you you're focusing on one thing that is going to get attention more than another thing that's also a same problem.
Right.
Yeah, I heard about that and I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's a bold move you're doing right there. But again, with the whole Christianity thing, it's like, really? Like, why do you have to be still hating?
Well, I know in the Bible, Jesus says that we are going to be persecuted and hated for loving him. Mm-hmm. But he never says why. So I wonder if there is a psychological reason as to why people hate Christians, specifically Christians.
Yeah. I'll say this. I won't say their name out of respect, but it's somebody I know where they were talking to me in like kind of an in-depth conversation. Like we were just having a chat like at 2, 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And we were sitting there talking about different faiths and whatnot and how they were trying to convince like magic is real and all this other stuff. It's just like how other people may convince like, Buddhism or whatever, however you pronounce it, Buddhism is like, Buddhism. This is the true, like this is what actually happened versus this. And it's like, you can go back and forth on it, but it's like, okay. And they didn't want to hear anything about Christianity. And so it was like, okay, so you wanted me to hear a whole spiel about how chicken bones will tell me the future and how I'm going to win the lotto by the way that they're angled on a table versus hearing about this guy who could heal people and he just, he wants a following because he is the Messiah. He's the Lord and Savior.
Yeah.
He does good. He's not sitting there purposely around going neighbor to neighbor and be like, oh, you're not Christian? Banned. Like, just, he's not like that. He's a good dude.
Well, in a way, he kind of is.
In a way,
because if you die and deny him, he's not letting you in.
Right. Yeah, if you deny him, that's the thing. That's your choice at that point.
Yeah.
So it's not saying like how this guy was also saying too, it's like, so you believe like if you don't believe in Jesus, like if people aren't familiar with Christianity that they're automatically doomed to go to hell. And it's like, no, that's not like that at all. It's like what you're saying is if you deny him, then that's where you're going, unfortunately. But if you accept him later, it's like with toddlers, you know what I mean? Like how it says like after a certain age, like, you know, if you're like an infant and something bad happens, like unfortunately like a passing away, like you think that baby, just because he didn't know Jesus, is going to go right to hell? No.
Right.
That's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I think if they've had the opportunity to hear and understand the gospel and they deny it at that point, then I would say they'd go to hell.
Right.
But yeah, a toddler isn't going to know, doesn't really have consciousness, doesn't think for him or herself at that point.
Yeah.
Doesn't understand anything. So no, I don't think a baby's going to hell.
No. And that's the whole thing is like, why, again, do you not want to listen to, like, if you want me to listen to you, then my expectation is you got to listen to me then too.
Yeah.
So if I'm sitting here talking about the Bible and you're sitting there over there yawning or on your phone texting, blah, 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 then okay, then my time is being wasted. But then if I did the same thing where you're talking about your chicken bones, then...
Question, did they ever win the lottery?
No. That's the dumb part about the whole thing too, is it's just like, okay, you want me to believe like if I look at a chicken bone from KFC and I turn it east that I'm going to just win $10,000 and it's going to be in my bank account tomorrow? Yeah. yeah, absolutely.
It was that simple for them?
If that's the other thing too is, Christianity may be like, to some people, it may be confusing or misleading on certain things.
Yeah.
But it's like, you obviously see the good things happening to you if you follow in the path of Christ versus, again, chicken bone situation. Because, again, if magic were real, everybody's problems would be settled. Everyone's.
Well, I think witchcraft can be real in some instances. Just God tells us to stay away from it because it is evil.
Oh, yeah, it's 100%. Like, but
I don't know about the chicken bones thing. I don't think that would work with the lottery. But I think in some ways people can actually use witchcraft for certain things.
Yeah. To me, the whole thing just is stupid. Like, it really is. Yeah. I'll say this too, just to be like a little personal. I have a sister named Janae, and I don't consider her my sister at all because I didn't even know her. She tried to literally hurt me as a child, like infant. And so she's been basically disowned by everybody, as sad as that sounds. She's into witchcraft and satanic worshiping.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And so the last time I physically saw her was at my grandma's funeral, like back in 2005. And I got away from her immediately because I didn't know who she was, because she came over hugging and was like, yeah, I feel bad that grandma passed. And I'm like, get away from me. Like, I don't want any of that. And plus, I was still a kid when all this happened, too. But it's like the way that she was trying to communicate with me after years of, like, basically ignoring, because, again, I don't consider her my sister at all. She was like, yeah, you know, if you want to, I can do, like, a tarot reading, or I can do, like, chicken bone stuff, and it'll tell you in the path that you want to go, or, you know, again, the lotto or something like that. And it's just like, I'm good. You know, I'm the only kind of chicken bone I'm going to hold in my hand is the one at KFC when I have that chicken leg and I throw it in the trash. I'm not going to sit there and have you shake it in a box and tell me that this direction's this way, this direction is negativity. Like, what sense does that make?
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, so that's why, again, and it's like she hasn't talked to me since, because that's all she wanted me to do. And then she was like shunning about being like, she goes like, yeah, you know, you're Christian, you're following the wrong path, like, Lucifer's the way to go and all this other crap. And I'm like, no.
That's creepy.
Yeah, no, that's
scary when people say that.
Yeah, that's why, again, I don't consider her my sister, and I don't consider her family at all. So she's...
Well, what if she did get saved at some point?
If she did, good for her. And then at that point, it's not like I'm going to sit there and ignore her at that point.
Yeah.
Just be like, yeah, just because you were satanic and now you claim that you're reformed doesn't mean like I'm just going to ignore you now because you did that in the past. It's like that's all about, you know, having that new... Well, it's like when you get baptized, you're reborn.
Yeah.
At that point. So, yeah, if she, you know, came back and she was like, yeah, I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, you know, and she did all this, this, and this, and she threw away the witchcraft crap and the satanic crap or whatever, she reformed, yeah, then I give her another shot. But if she still wants to be down that path, as far as I last knew, of satanic worshiping and witchcraft and blah, blah,
what if
you're
God,
on your own.
What if God has it written in the plan that you're supposed to be the one to preach the gospel to her?
I mean, that's the thing, right? So he's obviously got a plan for everybody.
Yeah.
And if it be written that I have to go talk to her and teach her scripture, that's what he wrote. I'm going to do it. So that's because he's the only one that knows on how the story begins and how the story ends.
Well, good for you.
Yep. It would be challenging. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay. But like.
Yeah. No, I get it. Yeah. It's a difficult road.
Yeah.
But I think the Christian walk in general is just more difficult than. Because you're always uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Always have to do uncomfortable things.
Well, yeah, because it's like some people, like I'm fine with announcing, like even on my streams, like I'm Christian, like, you know, come at me.
Yeah, you might as well start it off early too.
Right, because if you do it, like you're just like, you don't know what faith he believes in or whatever, and then you just announce it, then it's like, okay, you just lost everything like Butch Hartman did. Like not saying like, again, Christianity is a popularity-based thing.
Right.
But it's like, I would rather come out with it first thing and know that I'm not going to have like a large following or whatever than just doing it later on down the road. And then now all of a sudden I'm like, man, maybe I shouldn't announce that I'm Christian. But also if you're Christian, you shouldn't hide it anyway.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be ashamed.
Right. And I'm not ashamed to admit it. Like if somebody asks me like, what's your belief? And I'm like, well, I'm Christian. Like, I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to sit there and be like, I don't know, I'm atheist or whatever. Like, like those people, I'm sorry, like, but if you're atheist, it's like you just don't know what you want. You don't. You're sitting at the restaurant, you're looking at the menu, but you don't know what you want, and the waitress has come over several times. So,
I usually chalk atheism up to anti-Christian.
Yeah,
because they don't have a problem with, like I said a few minutes ago, with Buddhism or
anything
Islam or anything. They just hate on Christians.
Mm-hmm. They would rather believe a spaghetti monster in the sky is, you know, the one that created the Big Bang versus, you know, Jesus, God, the Holy Trinity, Father, Son, the Holy Spirit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They would rather believe that than Christianity.
Yeah.
So that's.
But I think too, they hate on Christianity because Christians. Well, I think that goes along with why a lot of people hate on Christians is because Christians will always say that Christianity is the only way to get to heaven. Whereas there are some other religions that are just like, we're the only ones that are right. But but most people are just like, why don't you just believe your truth and you can get to heaven multiple different ways. You can know God different ways through multiple channels. And it's just weird stuff. Whereas Christians are just going to say, no, Jesus is Christians don't say that. Jesus himself says he's the only way. He's the light, the way, the truth.
The light, the way, the truth.
Nobody comes to the Father except through him.
Yep.
And so I think that's another reason why a lot of people get so mad at Christians is because we are to believe we're the only way.
Yeah. I mean, and don't get me wrong, too. Like, there are people out there that take advantage of that to a whole nother level that probably ruins the reputation of Christianity.
Joyce Myers.
Yeah. There's a few other ones that I can think of, too, other than Joyce. But
Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah, there's him. Yeah, him. Yeah.
The creepy guy, you know.
Oh, yeah, I do not. And don't you ever say I did. That guy. Yeah, and then there's people at another church that I used to go to that also do that thing. They literally make it to be where it's. But now,
are you talking about the one that I played at?
Yep.
With your dad also played at?
Yeah. That one. They're a church that are kind of like that too.
Yeah, since that one's a little more local, we'll leave them out of the names.
Yes.
But I see the old head pastor at one of the coffee shops around here meeting every Sunday night. It looks like kind of like a cult. It's weird.
Yeah, and that's the part where I'm like, okay, yeah, if anything cult related is just immediately like a red flag to me.
I think she still leads worship there. She asked me why I left, texted me the other day, and I said, because you guys are going in the same route as
Other churches.
Mm-hmm.
And other churches, too, I feel like even nowadays, they're not even... Some churches, I should say. I'm sure there are some. Again, it's one of those aspect ratios of there are some that probably actually do preach the word of God in a correct way. They don't care about numbers. They don't care about... They just care about people who they can save. They care about the actual gospel.
Yes.
Versus other churches where I feel like the more churches I have gone to, it's more about money. It's more about views. It's more about smoke machines and, bass boosting worldly. Dubstep.
They're very worldly.
Yeah.
It's almost like a concert, and they do water down the gospel because they just want numbers. That's the American church for the most part.
And the other thing is, too, is they're not touching on topics of today. Like, again, like being gay is a sin. Obviously love thy neighbor like you loved yourself.
Yeah.
But, being gay is a sin in the Bible. And so there's churches that obviously in today's world, if you mention that being gay is wrong or being a drag queen is wrong, whatever, you're immediately like going to get blown up over social media and shunned by all of society. And then you can receive death threats or everything like that. But then again, I'm sure there are other churches that they will go over that topic regardless if somebody storms out because they're gay or because they're bi or whatever. So that's, again, one of my aspects on things. And that's where, as bad as it sounds, I mean, I'm open to going to new churches and stuff like that, giving them a try, but I haven't gone in a minute because of that factor of it just seems every church I've gone to, it's not what it used to be at all.
Yeah. You got to go to a small one. And they can be intimidating because
they're small.
They're small and everybody knows each other.
Mm-hmm.
But those smaller ones on the outskirts of town are really the only ones that are...
They're true.
Preaching the truth for what it is, and they're not afraid to preach about uncomfortable topics.
Yeah, they're not going to sugarcoat it either.
Yeah, because I don't think church should be there to always make us feel good.
Yeah, it's got to
make you feel convicted when you leave. Make it so that you want to change. Mm-hmm. If you're feeling all buttered up and better every time you go to church, that may not be the church for you or for anybody in that regard.
Yeah. I mean, I've had churches in the past where it's like there's been some things that I've done or whatever, and I walk out and I'm like, dang, like I really need to like focus on fixing that problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as an example, when I was in not my last relationship, but the one before that, there were some things that I needed to work on. And part of it was communication. Like, I was good with communication already for some part, but there were other parts of it where it was like, and I just felt like I was dragging and I knew it deep down. But then there was a message at the church that I was going to at the time where they talked about that communication, praying to God about things, or just, even if you're in a relationship, like talking to that person, and that really hit deep. And so I had to think about it for a while. And I mean, it still dragged on for a few days, but then I was able to have better communication at that point. But again, it's like what you're saying. You don't want to leave there every day, like all giddy and everything. Like, I'm going to go do this today. Blah, 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 blah. Like, no, you got to feel bad sometimes. Like, that's the other thing too about today is like nobody puts anybody down. And if they do, they're immediately shunned.
Yeah, you're a jerk.
Yep.
And it's not... Because I remember I would volunteer at a church, and I've volunteered at several, so nobody knows what church I'm talking about. I would volunteer there, and I played bass. And when I first got there, I sucked. I was terrible.
Better than what I can do on a bass, which is nothing.
Yes, I was better than somebody who's never picked one up. Sure. But I couldn't really keep time. The fills I did were trash. The melodies I played were trash. Everything. Mm-hmm. And nobody told me. They just kept saying, "Oh, you're sounding good." And so I didn't get better. And then eventually, because I consider myself, I have a brain. I consider myself kind of smart. Mm-hmm. I listened back and was like, okay, I'm really not that good. So then I went and got lessons and I was trying to improve myself. But it's like, for kids who are growing up in a church, on volunteer teams and stuff, if you're not telling them, and you don't have to say, "Hey man, you straight up suck."
Yep.
You can tell them, "Hey, you need to work on this a little bit more. You don't do this correctly." But they don't do that. They just keep saying, oh, you're sounding so good. You're doing such a great job.
Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, too, with my drawings that I do for people for commissions. Like, they'll want me to draw, like, okay, let's say it's Sonic the Hedgehog or whatever. Yeah. They want me to draw Sonic with their original character. So I draw them, like, a sketch before I do, like, the actual outlining and everything to be like, hey, is this good? And I tell them every time they do a commission, I said, the one rule is let me know if there is anything that you want changed. Because, yeah, I'm going to be drawing it and doing everything, but even with the finished product, once I show you it, if there's anything you want changed or that needs to be done that you don't like, tell me, because I'm not going to sit there and just, unless you truly mean it, of, yeah, it looks good. You know, you did a great job. Like, I love it. Then I'm not going to know if my art skills need to be improved or maybe I find something new. It's like with you with your bass. If they, like, let's say you were like to try something new or they said, hey, try this new just to give you some feedback.
Yeah.
It could turn out better than what they had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if they don't have that conversation, I'm just going to continue being terrible.
Yeah.
And then every time we go up and play, the music is going to sound real bad.
Yeah. And then at some point, hey, you don't know if God could have it lined up for you even too, where some bigger, I don't know, CEO guy of some other church band wants to notice you. And he's not going to notice you because you're just playing the same thing because they're just like, oh, yeah, you're doing good.
Or he is going to notice you, but it's going to be for the wrong reasons.
Right. So it's like that's where constructive criticism at some point comes into play and how it relates to Christianity too.
Yeah, one uncomfortable conversation can go a long way.
Yep, exactly. And that's the way it should be, I think, for not every conversation, obviously.
Yeah.
But for topics that you know you need to work on, that you've been feeling like God will point you in that right direction. If he knows you're struggling with something, he's going to let you know.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the plan is. You're going to get done with it, whether it's a porn addiction or whether it's, you know, you're treating the neighbor like crap, like you're throwing rocks at their windows and breaking them every week and blaming little Timmy across the street for playing baseball. It's one of those things, like, he's going to point you in the right direction, whether it's good for you. Like, it's just as simple as you convince yourself to tell the truth and say, hey, I'm really sorry, just having a bad week, whatever, blah, blah. Or if it's bad, where if it gets to a point where the cops get called and you get arrested for it. You know, and obviously
Stephanie,
not.
Is this a story that happened to you? What do you mean
No.
throwing rocks through people's windows? It's such a random story.
No, I just say it as an example. Like, you know, God will point you in the right direction, whether it's good for you or bad for you. Either way, he's going to give you a sign of, like, this is the right direction you should be going, or this is the direction you should not be going.
Yeah.
And if you keep following that direction of where you shouldn't be going, I'm going to tell you, I ain't going to just sit there and sugarcoat it and not let something happen to you.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're doing the right thing and you know that you're wanting to work on it, then I'm going to point you in the right direction, and, you know, good tidings and everything like that will happen to you. And you'll be closer to God at that point, and you'll feel a sense of relief after going through that hardship.
Yeah. Suffering does bring us closer to God, I think, as long as you're going about it in the right way. If you're going through a painful time and you're going towards drugs, alcohol, porn, then that suffering is probably going to amount to nothing.
Right.
But if you're in the path of, hey, I'm going through a painful time and I'm walking through it through prayer, other godly men or women.
Yep.
I was thinking of a third thing. But basically, if you're following in the path of your Christian walk, then yes, the suffering can amount to good.
Yeah.
I was also going to say that if you do have an uncomfortable conversation, say they were going to have an uncomfortable conversation with me about how I'm doing something wrong in the band, and I leave because I'm so upset, it's like I wasn't worth their time anyway.
Yeah. At that point, I mean, same thing would go for work too. If something just wasn't going your way or their way,
and they're like, "Hey, you're screwing up here. Here's something to do better." And I'm like,
"Yeah."
And then I walk out and leave. Then it's just like I wasn't really worth their employment anyway.
I was parched. I needed a drink.
Need a little Arizona green tea.
Absolutely. But yeah, that's where I think at least on how today's world is the viewship of being a Christian it's a lot of hardship, but it's also a lot of good that can come out of it too through that hardship.
Yeah.
So again, with the case going back to Butch Hartman is, yeah, he did a lot of good for our childhood, but he went in another direction. And yeah, it may not be as popular as what it used to be, like Fairly Odd Parents, but now he's doing his own thing. He's enjoying it. I think he probably senses a huge sign of relief too. So I'm probably sure there were restrictions with him of what he could or could not do. You know what I mean?
When he was doing Fairly Odd Parents?
Yeah, or anything with Nickelodeon.
Yeah, he probably couldn't put certain things in there that were going to be, oh, that's too religious. You can't have that in there.
Yeah, or even too with like certain directions he wanted to go, or just even the sense of like maybe God was telling him at some point, well, again, whether he got fired or whether he quit and he just did his own thing or he retired, whatever, God probably was speaking to him at that point saying, hey, like you've done this long enough and I know deep down inside I have another path for you and I know that you want to do something Christian based. Here's your opportunity. And when he tells you to take that opportunity, you probably should take that opportunity.
Yes. That's what happened with when we were doing Digital Fire.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Mike's moving. Does that sometimes. I'll just hold it. When we were doing Digital Fire, it was like, yeah, it was fun. For the most part, it was clean, but it wasn't necessarily Christian.
Yeah.
And I just kept having this thought in the back of my mind of, you should do a different path than what you're doing with the podcast.
And now here you are.
And now here I am.
And now
not that it was big back, like Digital Fire wasn't big by any means or popular, but it still wasn't what I really wanted to do.
Yeah. And plus, I mean, if you wanted to get into podcasting, that was like a good beginner step.
Yeah, it was. Because it was easy too.
Yeah.
Read some stories and everybody reacts and laughs and then.
Yeah. Now here we are. We're talking about like the fellowship of being a Christian and what it means to be one and
the cost of the cross.
The cost of the cross. Exactly. Which I think it's working out pretty good so far from what I've heard on the Spotify. And I don't know why I said the Spotify, but
the Spotify.
On Spotify. And,
it's on Apple Podcasts too.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Not on iTunes. Apple Podcast, I think, is free. But if you already have Spotify, I would just listen to it on there.
That's what I use. I use Spotify, and then I do have access to all the Apple stuff because I'm an iPhone user. So, huge iPhone, cool. Apple Watch, everything else fancy like that. So, but yeah. You have anything else to say or anything else you want to talk about? Or
no, I think that's a good ending to a podcast episode.
Cool. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So, everybody... Thanks for listening and have a blessed week. Bye-bye.
Bye.